to Invest Insights. I'm Abby Malone. I'm joined today by Gerardo Guerrero, the head consul for the Consulate of Mexico in St. Paul. Gerardo, thank you so much for being with me.
Hi, Abby. Thank you very much for having you with you.
So this season, we are going to be looking at this new economy that has been created due to the pandemic. New business norms, new operations that will be long lasting in the post-pandemic world we find ourselves in. However, I wanted to start by asking you: are there new personal norms that you started during the pandemic that you would like to carry with you in this post-pandemic climate? Any new hobbies or interests or technologies?
Well, yeah, I think life has changed for everybody, not just for me. And I think that after the pandemic, I became like more disciplined, even for my personal life or
Hmm.
working, for example, because actually a lot of things are like this. But for example, like Zoom, we had to do a lot of homework. Home office, for example, and you need to, well, I don't know, maybe for Americans it's not the same, but Mexicans, for example, are not very used to do home office. So we had like really to, be like very disciplined to do your job at home. And also, I realized that I used to do things that were very normal for me, that I gave them as granted, naturally granted. But
Like what?
once after we had to be locked at our houses, it's like, for example, I realized, for example, how important is reading. For example, I love to read.
Hmm.
So, I spend hours and hours reading, for example. And also I read a lot of things that I didn't have time before to read. So, I realized, that it's not if you are locked at home that you are going to be like boring, or, it's like, desperate because you are at home. I was capable to learn that you can enjoy time even in hard times. And I really want to keep that. I want to keep positive because, this has not end. This keeps going, and we need to learn a new way of life.
When people think of Minnesota, they might not be first thinking of the Mexican community, despite over 100 years of relationship between the two regions and over 300,000 Latinos, predominantly from Mexico, in the state of Minnesota. From your perspective, what needs to change in order to increase visibility and profile of the Mexican community within the region?
I think that we need to be more vocal about the contributions of the Mexican community in Minnesota. As you mentioned, in Minnesota, there are about 300,000 people of Latin origin, and of those, 80% are of Mexican origin. So we need to be like more vocal, about the contributions of, the Mexican community. You know that Minnesota is a place that receive more Somalis, for more Somalis refugees in the world. And in Minnesota, they have like an infrastructure, and they have a lot of programs for these people. The Minnesotan authorities, for example, recognize the contributions of the Mexican community to the economy of the state, but not just to the economy of the states, to many other things. But they haven't done enough, to have public policies, long-term public policies for these
Hmm.
communities. And the pandemic, 2020, was like a watershed. I don't know if it's that right, watershed.
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 Mhm.
It was, like, that we realized that we really needed to, start working in public policies for this community. Building the systems that support immigrant entrepreneurs is important to the development of the state's current and future economy. And I'm just going to mention some facts just to, exemplify why it's important, the contributions of the Mexican community. For example, uh, about 70% of people that are in age to work, they are employed. And for example, they have an average income of $40,000 per year.
Hmm.
So this contributes a lot to the Minnesotan economy because they have a very important economical power as consumers, as entrepreneurs, as taxpayers, for example. So, that's very important. Also, for example, the small entrepreneurs has been raising. Actually, for example, in the last year, we have 60% more new Mexican entrepreneurs that finally they generate employees for the state. And also, for example, every month, just to give you an example, every month, people of Mexican origin pay $23 million just in rents.
Wow.
So, they really contribute, to
Mm.
the economy of the state. And we need to be more vocal about that. In 2020, after the pandemic, I started working with different groups, with different, nonprofit organizations
Mm.
that work with Latino communities. And we realized how important is that we need to encourage authorities in order, not just it's very good. And when I was posted as Consul of Mexico, one thing that really impressed me of Minnesota is that they have something that is very valuable for them, that is inclusion, diversity. And I really admire them because they are like very welcoming for immigrants. And and I'm really celebrate that they have built these policies for some communities like the Somali or the Hmong community, but we need to keep working in order to do the same for other communities as Mexican or Latino communities. So that's really really important. That I think that we need to keep working on that. I already talked about this with authorities, with the governor, with some commissioners, telling them is necessary because finally they recognize the contribution of the Mexican community to the state. You know that even in 2020, even President Trump admitted that Mexican workers were essential because they kept working in agriculture in the agricultural field. They kept working in meatpacking industry. So thanks to those people, we had food in our tables, and we need to be fair
Yeah.
and recognize that.
The economic impact that you've just describing with the Mexican community on the state of Minnesota is impressive. But then I wanted to look at the business side of things. There are only 4 or 5 Mexican companies present within Minnesota, but there are 35 companies from Minnesota with operations in Mexico. Can you tell me a little bit about the discrepancy there and how we can work together to build businesses in both regions?
I think that Minnesotans were very smart and they took very good advantage of free trade because since 1993, the trade between Mexico and Minnesota really increased a lot.
Mm.
And a lot of companies, were to establish to Mexico. But you have companies that have been in Mexico for many, many years. For example, 3M has been in Mexico for more than 70 years, for example. It's not something new. And, you have in Mexico Medtronic, you have Ecolab, you have, Cargill, you have a lot of companies. But, I think that in Mexico, what we have missed is our entrepreneur people needs to be educated.
Mm.
Minnesota is like geographically, Minnesota is very far away from Mexico.
Yes.
We are very north. Even for Minnesotan people, it's like they are more used to their relationship with Canada because they are border to border. So everything is like very very very, very natural. And for Mexico, the entrepreneur people see Minnesota that is like very far away.
Yes.
But we need to educate people in order to let them know that they have investment opportunities in Minnesota. And that's very important. For example, and I think that we need to take advantage now, we took advantage of the old NAFTA, and now we need to take advantage of the new USMCA because this brings new opportunities for everybody. Big companies like those that I already mentioned, Cargill, or even Mexican companies here in Minnesota, like La Costeña, or even Herdes,
Mm.
they are big and they have enough infrastructure, to establish wherever they want. But we need to keep working with small and medium-sized enterprises. And that is something important because, the negotiators of the new USMCA, they really contemplated this and they included a chapter, which is the 25th chapter in the USMCA that focus on, small and medium-sized enterprises. And we really need to exploit that. For example, in Rochester, Minnesota, it's a big, it's medium and small sizes enterprises is very important. And we really need to teach, to educate our entrepreneurs that they are going to have opportunities in Minnesota. We need to do that. And we need to focus in other sectors because this is something that is also contemplated in the USMCA, is we need to support the infrastructure for small and medium-sized enterprises, but also we need to, to focus in different sectors. For example, these kind of businesses that are owned for women, for example, for youth people, for, businesses that are located in rural, not just in the big cities, but also in the rural cities. So we are going to have a lot of opportunities. The USMCA has been in force just for 1 year, so it's like a very young agreement. NAFTA was in force for more than 25 years. So we still have a very long path away. But we need to, in Mexico, I think that we really need to educate our entrepreneurs about the opportunities that Minnesota offers.
And as we close out 2021, what are the priorities for the Consulate of Mexico in St. Paul?
Well, this is a very good question. And I'm going to just make like a brief resume of things. When I was posted here in Minnesota, in one of my first interviews, I was asked, for example, this is a very young consulate. We opened in 2005. So we have been open just for 16 years. I am the fourth consul. And someone asked me, someone says, the second consul, her priority was education. The next consul, his priority was culture. What is going to be your priority? And, I think that depends of the personality of the circumstances that each consul live. For example, I am a lawyer, nobody is perfect. So I am like more technician. So, I know education and culture is very important, is part of our job. But first of all, we need to take into consideration that the main purpose of a consulate, and most importantly, being in the United States, the main purpose of the consulate is to be close of our community, to serve our community. And in my case specifically, it was a great experience. But, I had like very special circumstances. For example, we lived the elections in 2016. So in 2017, when we had the new administration, it was chaotic for the community. So we needed to work very close with the community. We had to work very close with the community, teaching them what the rights were in case they might be detained, what to do in case they were deported. And we spent a lot of time working with the community. Then we had 2020 with the pandemic. So we need to focus our forces, our efforts in other kind of things. This depends on what is the future of this. Well, first of all, in the last years, we have strengthened a lot the relationship. Not just, we have worked a lot with the community, but we have strengthened a lot our relationship with Minnesota. In 2015, the then governor visited Mexico. I have received here in Minnesota by Deputy Secretary for Foreign Affairs. Last year, I had our ambassador in DC. So we have strengthened our political relationship, our economical relationship. And I have to tell you something. I am at the end of my tenure as Consul of Mexico in St. Paul. I'm leaving the office at the end of August. So in September, for sure, I will have a successor. And of course, he's going to have his own interests. But I think that he needs to keep working on these challenges, on strengthening the relationship with the Minnesota government, with the authorities, with business people, and I think that he needs to do that. But he will have other kind of personal things that he would like to develop.
Great. Well, thank you again. That was Gerardo Guerrero, the head consul for the Consulate of Mexico in St. Paul. My name is Abby Malone, and you've been watching Invest Insights. Thank you again, Gerardo.
Thank you very much, Avi.
Hey everyone, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so that you can stay up to date on the latest business trends from our knowledgeable experts. Be sure to check out the description below for more information on the segment you just watched. Thanks for tuning in.